Divine Mercy Prime today, Monday, 17th of March 2025. We start with our news headlines. Coming up, we feature a report on the Lenten season and most especially the solemn tradition and recommendation of fasting from alcoholic drinks and meat during this Lent season on Fridays and on Wednesdays. Also, strengthening and edifying. This is the mission statement of the new moderator of the Presbyterian Church in Cameroon, the PCC, Right Reverend Mickey Hines Abia, as he gets inducted and instituted at the helm of that church. That event took place yesterday here in Boya as he takes over from the Very Reverend Funky Samuel Foba. And we also talk sports in this edition, the 2024-2025 Southwest Regional Football League flags off over the weekend with 3 matches played at the Moleko Obni Sports Stadium. We bring to you details in the minutes ahead. Welcome you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us in this edition of our newscast live from Boya in Cameroon. My name is Jude Mbako Munyo. Those were our news headlines. We'll be back to give you the full news edition. You're welcome back. Let's begin our news here in the Diocese of Boya and of course with St. Andrew Parish in Munya, where within the context of the Lenten season, Christians have been urged to closing up their cooperation with God Almighty for their own transformation. The call was made by the parish priest of St. Andrew Parish in Munya, that's Reverend Father Anselm Kebi, yesterday, March 16, 2025, as he presided at a mass in that parish. We have from our newsroom Bernard Arsongne, seminarian on pastoral year, who worshipped at St. Andrew Parish in Munya. He has details in this report.
As the Universal Church continues to journey with Christ during these periods of Lent, March 16, 2025 has been celebrated as the second Sunday of Lent at St. Andrew's Parish Munya, with its own unique message being transformation following the transfiguration of Christ at Mount Tabor. As the Church presents to the faithful different messages for the various Sundays of Lent, the message which stands strong and was echoed by the preacher Father Anselm Kebi was the call for transformation.
Number 2 Sunday for Lent, it tell we say God is the one for transform we and is the one for make we for be better. A God who wants to transform us. He begins from something physical and he moves to something spiritual and lasting, and it is forever. That is the God we are having. But it is a process. And God will be aware that it is a process. God will be aware. Say we go fall and we go rise for we for truly experience that transformation. He be aware. Say even that yes, we will talk on the day of baptism. Sometimes it go turn be no.
Reflecting still on the first readings from the book of Genesis, which was centered on covenant, the preacher reminded the people to try to keep to the promises they make daily to God, as God remains faithful, but man is always unfaithful.
The man who is always faithful to an agreement is God and only God alone. Abraham will not pass. He represents me and you, an unfaithful people. A God where he always be faithful, a people who are always unfaithful. And this one, God is one point and for Abraham. Say, me, I go keep my promise for you. Even when you go be unfaithful to me, even when you not go do things the way me I ask you for do, no say as I make this promise for you today, it go definitely come for be true.
Carefully listening to God's words, the Christians are challenged to live up to the promises they continuously make to their Creator.
I thank God for this word today. It encouraged me. It made me glad for where I be inside this parish for Munya. I thank God.
God did really do things for we, but we did fail for do for God. So we pray, say, may we get that courage, may we get that heart for the imitate way to way. God is the talk for we. Make we not the fail God. Papa, we the only talk and say, me this message it work around for the whole world.
In Mass, I learned that God is a covenant-keeping God, and man being man doesn't stick to his words and doesn't fulfill his own part of the covenant. And God being a covenant-keeping God is aware that man doesn't keep to his covenant. So God stands in man's place and he always fulfills all the promises he gives for us.
Going away from God's house and not his presence, the faithful have been given a bolster to keep to the struggles which are embodied by the seasons of Lent.
Bernard song there. Now, we feature this Lenten story regarding the solemn tradition of fasting observed within the Lenten season and the prescriptions that the church has given to its Christians. In the upcoming report, Franklin Fomukong, Seminarian on Pastoral Year, delve into the specific recommendations that the church has given regarding fasting from meat and alcoholic drinks on Wednesdays and Fridays of the week. Let's get details in this report of Franklin Fomukong.
The people of Nineveh believed God and proclaimed a fast. Jonah chapter 3 verse 5. This scriptural passage, among others, has long stood as foundation of the church's ancient tradition of fasting and abstinence, as Christians during the solemn period of Lent are specifically called to observe the act of fasting. Besides general recommendations made by the church as regards this austere and ascetic practice, fasting from meat and alcoholic drinks on Wednesdays and Fridays throughout Lent still remains an issue to be reckoned with by some Christians. As such, Reverend Fathers Elvis Kinakum and Bernard Ebule have outlined specific recommendations of the church as regards this subject matter.
The church recommends that Fridays in Lent, we should abstain from meat. All the Fridays in Lent. But it begins with Ash Wednesday. And in some places, you are encouraged even to, reduce drinking a lot. Also to help you as a way of abstaining from certain things that might cause you, get to sin. So a Friday is recommended. But there are people who can go extra miles of adding Wednesdays to the Friday.
Ash Wednesday and Good Friday. Those are the 2 days that have been prescribed by the church for us to fast. We were also encouraged, the church also encourages us to fast Wednesdays and Fridays, especially Fridays during the Lenten period.
Being a deep spiritual exercise, fasting is often regarded as necessary during the season of Lent.
Fasting is first of all to deepen your intimacy with God, and then for your transformation. Fasting also makes you, detached from certain things. Detached from the luxurious life. It makes you to be able to think about those who are suffering out there, who might not have that kind of opportunity, the 3 square meals you have a day. And when you see, you detach yourself from them, it is not because you do not have. It is because you have. But you decide, it's a decision. So you cannot fast from what you do not have. If you don't eat meat every Friday, you have not had the opportunity to eat meat. You cannot fast from, you cannot abstain from meat. So it must be something that you have. And then you are detaching yourself.
It's not only about food and drink, abstaining from food and drink. It's also, as Pope Francis says it, fasting from gossiping, fasting from lies telling, fasting from oppression.
As Catholics worldwide navigate the 40-day journey of Lent, abstaining from meat and alcoholic drinks on Fridays and in some cases Wednesdays is deemed necessary, for it deepens their spiritual lives and aids them experience the joy of Easter.
A report emphasizing the need to fast and abstain from meat and alcoholic drinks within the Lenten seasons on Fridays and Wednesdays. Now, leaders of the Catholic Women Association, the CWA in the Diocese of Boya, have been told to see the transfiguration of Jesus Christ as a symbol for their own transformation, and to use their practical leadership skills in reaching out to other women of the CWA movement in different zones of the diocese. The call met by Reverend Father George King Ngumba, chaplain of the CWA in the Diocese of Boya, during a closing mass to mark the end of a 3-day seminar that took place at the Catholic University Institute of Boya over the weekend. We have Eileen Sama, who was part of that CWA seminar. She did this report for our newscast.
The 3-day event focused on equipping leaders drawn from the 23 zones of the Catholic Women's Association, Boya Diocese, with distinctive leadership principles, conflict management, and project drafting skills. Christentia Enobi is diocesan president of the CWA.
We gave lessons on good leadership in CWA and in the church, conflict and conflict management. We gave a talk on project, how to carry out projects. We gave a talk on how to write reports in CWA, how to do effective communication, how to handle cases, crisis in CWA, how to work with difficult members, how to audit, how to do auditing, and how to keep good finance practice. They did a lot, and the mothers are very happy because they have learned, and they will go back to the division and continue.
A list of spiritual activities were selected for this training seminar that had its first phase in Yaoundé at the national level.
Here we have enriched ourselves. We came Friday, we had morning prayer. We started with the rosary, Stations of the Cross, and we had mass. After mass, we had the installation of the Bible and the Marian statue.
The skills gathered here will be instrumental in the various zones where these Catholic women leaders come from.
I want to thank the diocese, the diocesan experts, for organizing this seminar. It is so rich in such a way that if I would have absent, I would really blame myself. Since we came in, we have just been busy. They taught us how to handle good finance records, how to audit reports, how to be a good leader, then even animals' character. They say some of us behave like those animals, and they came out with a book that we have to carry back home. We are good leaders in the society. Some of us at times, when we go back to teach the other people, we will be happy because at times in a group, when they say something, some of us are just dormant, and when we look at the animals that we treated yesterday, that we resemble some of those animals also, it really makes us to at least change.
Reverend Father Kinge George Ngumba is diocesan chaplain of the CWA. During the closing mass marking the end of the 3-day event, he called on the women to see Jesus' transfiguration as a symbol and be transformed.
Today, the theme of my reflection was lessons from the school of the transfiguration. I actually tied it to the seminar that was based on leadership at the diocesan level. So I told them that Jesus is a founder and the owner of the school of the transfiguration, and the disciples, including Moses and Elijah, were all students in that particular school of Jesus. So I invited the women, Catholic Women Association, all the leaders from the different zones and divisions to learn from this school of the transfiguration and try to relate it to the seminar that they have had on leadership and so many other themes today. Actually, they should see Jesus in everything that they do, and they go back and put this seminar into practice to teach those in the zones and the branches. They should teach as Jesus would have taught. They should teach as Jesus would teach them, so that they will get the feedback from them after about 2 months. According to what the leaders have said, we're going to have a feedback on how far that particular leadership seminar has been done.
These leaders from the Catholic Women Association, Boya Diocese, return home better and fulfilled with a new approach to leading their peers.
Now, let's take you to our weekly diocesan televised catechesis, Know Your Faith, by His Lordship Michael Bibi Nyabesue, local ordinary for Boya. This week, it is Reverend Father Martin Nje Moka who took on the lessons, and he capitalized on Lenten observances and practices, focusing on fasting and abstinence during this Lenten season. The catechetical session took place earlier today at St. Charles Luanga Parish in Moliko, Hemboya. We have Reverend Father Roderick Yans Ishim, who sat through that session and now has a summary in this report.
Why do people fast? When should people fast? How should people fast? What is the purpose of fasting? The why, what, when, and how people should fast were the focus of the doctrine session of this day with Father Martin Nje Moka. Fasting is that voluntary abstinence from food and drink for a specific period of time, undertaken for a spiritual purpose. Fasting is penitential in nature and with the purpose of intensifying prayer.
Fasting itself is penitential in character. Fasting itself is penitential in its nature and with the purpose geared towards intensifying our spiritual life in prayer. There is nobody who will go into fasting perhaps without an intention. No one will go into fasting without a purpose. And no one will go into fasting as prescribed by the church without the need for spiritual nourishment. And so, physically, you could be wanting, you could be found wanting, you could be lacking in food and drink and even in all these negative characteristic traits, but spiritually you are fortified. Spiritually you are filled and you are nourished. Hence, as a means, fasting has and is a means to an end. When we talk about an end, we're talking about a goal. We're talking about an objective, which is the reason you indulge yourself in fasting.
Father Martin Nje Moka in this teaching of today brought out the biblical origins of fasting from both the Old Testament and the New Testament. From all the text, it was evident that fasting is a specific means of seeking God's presence, guidance, forgiveness, and protection.
With the book of the prophet Jonah, chapter 3, 5-9. And the king of Nineveh responds to Jonah's warning of the impending judgment that will fall upon the Ninevites, calling for a citywide fast where everyone from the king to the animals were to abstain from eating and drinking. To the Ninevites, in the hearing of the king, that there is an impending judgment and the wrath of the Lord will fall upon the Ninevites. They don't repent and stop their evil doings. This was the prescription of the king. And the people of Nineveh, first and foremost, believed God, as we hear in Jonah 3, verse 5-9. They proclaimed the fast. Everyone, great, everyone, humans to animals, were to be dressed in sackcloth. And when the news actually reached the king of Nineveh, he rose from the throne, removed his robe, and covered with sackcloth in arches. Then he had a proclamation made in Nineveh. By the decree of the king and his nobles, no human being or animal, no head of flock was to taste anything, food or drink. And all of them were to observe a moment of fast where they will cry to their Almighty God and all from their evil ways.
Remember that fasting is a personal and voluntary practice. It becomes much beneficial when a clear understanding is understood, said Father Martin Nje as he ended the session of this day. It was a spirit uplifting teaching as Christians actively participated in the session. As the Lenten season continues, it is the wish of the proper teacher of the faith, Bishop Michael Bibi, that all Christians should understand and practice the Lenten observances.
Now, we continue in church news, but out of the Catholic Church, this time around in the Presbyterian Church in Cameroon, the PCC. Right Reverend Mickey Hans Abia and Reverend Ayok Etas Solomon have taken over the leadership of the Presbyterian Church in Cameroon, the PCC. The duo, that's the moderator and the synod clerk, were inducted and instituted into their functions in a ceremony that took place here in Buea yesterday, March 16, 2025, Sunday. The new leadership placed their mission statements on strengthening and edifying the institutions and services of the Presbyterian Church in Cameroon. Let's meet Aloysius Lecky in this report for further details.
Expansion is a dream of every visionary leadership and organization, but while we must keep expanding, we shouldn't lose sight to secure and consolidate our expansion and achievements. These are the words of Right Reverend Mickey Hans, the new moderator of the Presbyterian Church in Cameroon, during the induction and institution ceremony that took place in Buea Sunday 16th of March 2025, as thousands trooped into Buea to witness this great event that ushers in new leadership at the helm of the Presbyterian Church. The new moderator and synod clerk revealed that the new focus and engagement are to strengthen our missions and institutions and also to identify and inspire each other for better performance. It is about the spiritual health of the congregations, the moral integrity of the leadership, and the unity of the mission. The induction exercise, which was the high point of the event, saw the outgoing moderator, Reverend Funky Samuel, handing over the pectoral cross to the incoming Right Reverend Mickey Hans. The new leaders have the next 5 years to strengthen and edify the teachings and institutions of the church, and the moderator says work begins immediately after the induction.
Our vision for the next 5 years is clear: to consolidate the gains we have made so far while expanding our mission. This requires more than just organizational growth. It demands a deeper commitment to unity and healing and fostering God's mission. This also means fostering meaningful partnership with our local communities, with other denominations, with our government, and also with our international partners and organizations. It means empowering both the clergy and the laity to take ownership of the church's mission, ensuring that every believer sees themselves as part of God's great work.
As the entire church thanks and bid forward to Reverend Funky Samuel, they are praying and wishing Right Reverend Mickey Hans and the team God's grace to continue with the works of the church.
I advise him to do his work directly, because every work you do is you are moving on the road. So when you move, you see a hole, you jump the hole, you see another thing, and so on. So he should gather the people in the Presbyterian Church, do what he knows is right. God has chosen him because he knows he will be up to the task to do it. So we are praying him, we wish him to do his work correctly and then be a good servant.
May the good God, who has begun this journey in them, grant them the graces they will need to shepherd his flock.
Now let's leave that and talk some sport. The 2024-2025 Southwest Regional Football Championship has started. There was a ceremony over the weekend at the Moleko Omnisport Stadium that saw 3 matches played. The ceremony was coordinated by the Southwest Regional President for Fecafoot. Now let's meet Hilarion Tukov, who tells us that the denizens of Buea turned out at the Moleko Stadium to enjoy the wonderful skills put forth by the local players of the league here in the Southwest region. His report.
Southwest Local Football Championship has been launched March 15, 2025, pulling hundreds of football lovers. Top-rank officials include Governor Bernard Okalabilai's representative, Fonja Bernard, the fourth vice president of Fecafoot, Binga Felix, and the mayor of Kumba City Council, among others. 3 games set the pace for the Football League. Newcomer Buea City Football Club picked a 1-1 tie with Al Jazeera Football Academy. Kumba City FC settled for a draw as well against Legend Football Academy. Ambitious and well-branded Fako United Football Club picked 3 points after a 1-0 victory over Tiku United. After witnessing the brilliant demonstration, the governor's representative outpour his positive impression, echoing the works of the league's president.
I'd like to, on behalf of His Excellency the Governor of the Southwest Region, congratulate the President of the Regional League of Fecafoot for the excellent organization. We have seen that throughout the matches, the officials were irreproachable. There were no situations of controversy. And when the last game ended, we saw the two teams greet each other and walk out of the field in fraternity and in fair play. I think that is an illustration of the quality of the organization of this day of play.
The fourth Vice President of Fecafoot, representative of Samuel Eto'o, and the Mayor of Kumba City Council reiterated on the good mobilization put in place by Mr. Valerie Ndaze, the President of the Southwest Regional League.
I think it goes further to continue where we ended last season with the mini Interpols. It was of this same, I would say, magnitude and quality, but this time around, it is the beginning, which means before we get to the mini Interpols, the quality is going to increase, which means that as soon as we are done, we're moving for the national Interpols to come back with another Elite 2 team. I'm just speaking the dreams and vision of the regional president for Fecafoot. It is under his control that I'm talking, and of course, in that light, I want to congratulate him for the wonderful job he's been doing for a couple of years. Southwest is back to that level where we were before.
I think I'm really impressed after watching a beautiful game here in the Southwest region. I want to seize the opportunity to thank the regional president and his team for a good organization for this championship, and to send words of the national president who is there to promote football in our country. And I think that Southwest is not left behind. And I think I just want to encourage the teams that played, because I really impressed myself by watching a beautiful game here. I want to encourage them that they should continue this same spirit, so that next year we should have another Elite 2 team.
3 years mandate down already for Valerie Ndaze as regional president of Fecafoot. 2 teams promoted to Elite 1 and 2. His satisfaction after the launching foreshadows his ambitions of another elite club from the region.
I'm a proud president, semi-proud, let me say semi-proud, because it's the beginning of our championship, and we still have a long way to go, because the objective of every regional championship is to produce a champion that will, at the end of the day, go to the national Interpols, compete with the other sister regions, and see that they should pick a ticket to the national Elite 2 competition, which has always been our objective, to see that Southwest being blessed through the head of state, His Excellency President Paul Biya, for have constructed these beautiful stadiums across Fako precisely. And our objective this year is to see that we should have a champion that will go and pick up a ticket, because within the past 3 years we've been able to produce 3 champions, but 2 of them have been successful to pick up that ticket, and I don't want to be an average president making it 2-on-4, but I want to make it 3-on-4, which should be a pass mark for me.
Valerie Ndaze has called on all participatory clubs to play football with passion and enjoy the beautiful infrastructures put in place by the head of state, His Excellency President Paul Biya. He has echoed the works of the national president of Fecafoot, Samuel Eto'o. Fako United steals the day after picking 3 points.
Beautiful images there from the Molikopni Sports Stadium over the weekend at the launching of the 2024-2025 Championship, Football Championship for the Southwest region. Now we are going to wrap up our news on a foreign note. We begin here in Africa, and it is Angola that is calling for an immediate ceasefire between the Democratic Republic of Congo and the M23 rebels that are in that country. And also in the United States of America, U.S. President Donald Trump has proposed an expansion of his travel ban to include more 43 countries across the globe. Well, from our newsroom, Nadeshme Nechung has had her eyes fixed on these international stories. Let's have them and more.
Angolan President João Lourenço, currently chair of the African Union, has called for an immediate ceasefire in the ongoing conflict in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. Lourenço urged all parties to stop hostilities and create a peaceful atmosphere for upcoming peace talks. According to a statement from the Angolan presidency, the ceasefire must include all hostile action against civilians and halt any attempt to gain new position in the conflict zone. The talks are set to take place in Luanda, Angola on March 18, where the Democratic Republic of Congo and the M23 rebels will meet for the first time in 3 years. The Democratic Republic of Congo government has not officially confirmed its participation yet. The M23, however, has expressed support for Angola's peace initiative, calling on President Felix Tshisekedi to publicize commit to direct negotiation. The conflict has escalated recently, with the M23 rebels capturing key towns in North and South Kivu provinces, displacing thousands and worsening the humanitarian crisis. Despite diplomatic effort, violence between the Democratic Republic of Congo and the M23 continues, highlighting the urgent need for dialogue. Taking you out of Angola this evening, the Trump administration is considering an expanded travel ban, potentially targeting citizens from up to 43 countries. This new proposal could go beyond the restriction imposed during his first term. A draft list circulating within the administration includes a red list of 11 countries, including several African nations, Somalia, Sudan, and Libya, alongside Afghanistan, Cuba, Iran, North Korea, Syria, Venezuela, and Yemen. During his campaign, Trump vowed to reinstate the travel ban, which first gained attention in 2017 when he signed an executive order which barred Syrian refugees and temporarily suspended entry for citizens from Iraq, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen. The decision sparked protests and legal challenges, with critics calling it the Muslim ban. When President Joe Biden took office in 2021, he repealed the ban. Now, this new proposal suggests a return to similar policies. The Special Olympics World Winter Games in Turin are coming to a close on Saturday, marking the end of an exciting week of competition and celebrations. The Games featured final medal events and 2 closing ceremonies in Turin. African nations have made significant strides at this year's Winter Games. Senegal, for the first time, made its debut at the Games, competing with 8 athletes. South Africa sent a strong team for 6 athletes to participate in figure skating and short track speed skating, while Namibia's football team impressed with their progress on the world stage. Amid the success of African athletes, Jamaica also made its mark.
See them go out and do them best, get the gold, get the silver, and get the bronze.
The Games conclude the achievements of the athletes from Africa and beyond, highlight the growing success of these nations in winter sports.
Nadeshme bringing us to an end of our Divine Mercy Prime this Monday. Before we go, let's quickly have a relook at the stories that were top in this edition. You heard in the newscast with future reports on the Lenten season, and most especially the solemn tradition and recommendation for Christians to fast from alcoholic drinks and meat during Lenten seasons and on Fridays and Wednesdays. Also, strengthening and edifying is the mission statement of the new moderator of the Presbyterian Church in Cameroon, PCC, that is right, Reverend Mickey Hans Abia, as he was inducted and instituted at the helm of the church, the Presbyterian Church here in Buea yesterday. Right, Reverend Mickey Hans Abia takes over from the very Reverend Funky Samuel Foba. And in sport, like you just had there, the 2024-2025 Southwest Regional Football League flags off over the weekend with 3 matches that were played at the Moliko Omnisport Stadium. That was our newscast package for this evening. Thanks for watching. We appreciate your fidelity and hoping that you stay glued to more programs on DMR TV. Coming up is Mountain Echoes with Reverend Father Ernest Epand. Good night.